Hey guys, I wanted to make this video and show off a little hobby project I've been working on. If you collect miniatures for Dungeons & Dragons, one of the problems I feel like you'll run into a lot is finding miniatures for specific monsters, ones that are either uncommon or larger sized than your usual miniatures. And when you finally do find them, they are often too expensive. In my case, I wanted to introduce some frost giants to my collection, but the official Dungeons & Dragons frost giant, as well as any other frost giants from other companies, are anywhere from $10 to $20, and I'm just not going to drop that kind of money on a single miniature. But what I did find are these Vikings from a Russian company called Technolog. Technolog puts out a lot of miniatures, and some of their more popular ones are these Viking guys. They come in 5 in a pack for $10. That's how much I paid on Amazon. There are plenty of other places on the internet where you can buy them for around the same price. Now, if you'll notice, they are a little too stylized, a little too exaggerated to be actual historically accurate Vikings. And that one's a little wobbly. And they're also twice the size of your normal 28mm figure, so you can't really use them as human characters. But I figured if I could give them a nice enough paint job, they can make some decent frost giants. Now, some people might say you can't really use them for frost giants because frost giants, according to the monster manual, are huge-sized creatures. These guys would be large at best. And, I agree with that, but like I said, I'm not going to drop a ton of money on some official licensed frost giants. So I'll just compromise, get these smaller guys, paint them up nice, and make some cool-looking miniatures out of them. So with this video, I'm going to show you how to convert these guys into frost giants with a real basic paint job. So the first thing I did was glue these guys to some bases, then I took them outside and primed them with a white spray primer. Now if you want some more muted colors, obviously you could use a gray primer. I like my colors to pop a little bit more, so I went ahead and primed them in white. And also, if you decorate your base, since these guys are always walking around in icy mountains and tundras and stuff like that, obviously you can spray paint the base white as well, so you can have a sort of snowy base coat for that. Next, I noticed that the frost giants in the art for the official rulebooks have this sort of glossy, metallic grayish blue skin, so I went ahead and mixed a few drops of blue with some very light metallic silver paint, and made a sort of glossy metallic blue skin tone that I put on all of the fleshy bits. After the primer had dried, I went over the axe blade and the banding on his shield with a dark metallic silver. I want to make sure that gets done first because I'm going to be coming back to that axe later. I want the paint to be 100% dry by the time I finish all the other colors on him. Then I took a pale sandy tan color and colored all the fur on him. So basically all of this pelts from this big saber-toothed cat that he's wearing. And then I also used that on the horns on his helmet. Next, I colored everything that looked like cloth with a medium brown paint. So his boots, the little pouches on his belt, some straps, and his hair ties. Then I took a darker brown and colored all the leather bits on him, so his belt, the little collar thing around his neck, his helmet, his bracers, as well as the haft of his axe and the wooden parts of his shield. Because frost giants seem to have either white or silver hair, I went ahead and used that bright silver that I'd used when I'd mixed up the skin tone, and I went ahead and applied that to all of his hair and his mustache. Then I applied some secondary layers where I needed to, fixed up some of the mistakes I did on the edges where things looked a little sloppy. I took a fine tip brush and added some color to some of the straps on his belt, on his sash, and the little ties on his collar. I also made sure to use a fine tip brush to use a little bit of white paint on the fangs and claws of the saber-tooth pelt that he's wearing. Lastly, I did a very light dry brushing of the metallic blue that I used for his skin tone over the head of his axe. Doesn't show up that well on film, but you can kind of see it if I tilt it. But yeah, it just gives it a nice misty, frosty, sort of clouded look to the steel. Well, then all that's left to do is just throw them onto some snowy, icy terrain with battle mat or some terrain tiles and pit them up against a group of adventurers for a game. All in all, these guys were a lot of fun to paint. I think I might touch them up a little bit more in the future, but for now they're pretty good for casual game of D&D. Like I said, they are only $10 for a pack of 5 on Amazon, so if you don't mind compromising on the size and scale rules for combat and D&D, go ahead and pick some of these up. They make pretty good frost giants when you paint them up nicely. In any case, thanks for watching the video. Hope you guys have a good one. Across the red drifts and mail-clad forms, 2 figures glared at each other. In the utter desolation, only they moved. The frosty sky was over them, the white, illimitable plain around them, the dead men at their feet. Slowly through the corpses they came, as ghosts might come to a tryst through the shambles of a dead world. Whew. That's good stuff, Rob. It's good stuff.